Welcome back. It's been about 24 hours, and so the albumin's had a chance now to settle. What we're going to do today is simply remove all of the froth that's left at the top that didn't settle, scoop away as much of all of that foamy part as we can, and then we're going to be straining it through cheesecloth into an amber glass bottle that we can then store in the refrigerator for the next week before we can start to use it, and then for the next couple of months until we've used up all of the albumin. So let's go ahead and get started. So before we get started, I wanted to show a nice tight shot so you can really kind of see where the albumin has separated itself from the rest of the froth that we'd created yesterday. So what we're going to do is we're going to be removing all of that froth and then straining that albumin. So here's our bucket of mixed albumin. We're just going to go ahead and remove first the rubber band, and we're going to save that rubber band because we're going to be using it in a little bit for holding our cheesecloth in place. So we'll just set that off to the side for now. We're going to throw away the cling wrap. And so there's all the leftover froth. And I'm just going to be using like a paint mixing stick, but any sort of a spoon would work. I don't have all the utensils that I might have like in a kitchen, say for instance. So I'm just going to use this. And this is really kind of a thick froth, kind of like a meringue. So even with this, I can scoop out a pretty good size scoop of the froth. And I've just set up a trash bag in one of the trays here to discard all of this. So I'm just gonna slop that in there and then just keep kind of scooping out parts of the meringue. As we start to dig down in there, we don't want to disturb the albumin that's down at the bottom. So we want to be as careful as possible as we can. We don't want to start pushing down into the albumin. So we're just going to go slowly and keep taking away little parts of the foam at a time. And as we start to clear away a path, you can start to see a little bit of that pure albumin down at the bottom. So we just want to make sure we're careful not to push any of the bubbles down into the clear liquid and remove as much of the bubbles as we can. The little tiny bit that's going to be left will be easy to strain out with the cheesecloth, but we want to just try to make sure we get rid of all the little parts that we can so that it'll flow easily through the cheesecloth without getting too clogged up. I'm also going to be scraping some of the foam off of the side here as well. That way as we go to pour, it's going to reduce the chance and likelihood of getting some of those bubbles in our final product. So there we go. There is the strained albumin that's now settled. And so what we're going to be doing at this point is setting up a mechanism in order to strain it using the cheesecloth in a funnel and pouring it into an amber bottle to store it for the next 7 days. So the next step is we're going to basically be taking cheesecloth, and this is just normal cheesecloth that you'd get either at the grocery store or hardware store that you'd use for cooking. And I've cut off a section that's about 18 inches and opened it all the way up and then folded it in half and then in half again to kind of quarter it. Then what I'm going to do is place it inside of the funnel and then also secure it with the rubber band that we saved from the saran wrap from yesterday. So I'm just going to go ahead and place that over there. This will just kind of help hold it in place so that it doesn't fall in. And then we're just going to slowly pour what's left of our separated albumin into the cheesecloth, and just do it slowly so that it has time to kind of seep through and then into our container. Okay, there we go. And then we'll take a quick look inside of our cheesecloth. So you can see the cheesecloth has managed to catch some of those bubbles and froth that were left inside the separated albumin. And so at this point, we can go ahead and remove the funnel, and we're going to be throwing away this cheesecloth. We're not going to save it for another use, so we'll just go ahead and disregard that. And I'm going to hold on to the rubber band just so that we have that for the next time. So here's our albumin all finished, and if we take a quick look, you should be able to see we ended up with just a little bit under a liter, maybe about 850 milliliters, something like that, with the settling and everything else. So if you really need a full 1,000 milliliters, you may want to go ahead and use a little bit of extra egg kind of in the beginning, but this will be plenty for what we need to do. It should make about 50 to 100 sheets of paper for us. And it's always a good idea to label, and then with albumin especially, it's a good idea to put on there when it was made. So the label that's on here was from the last time that I made albumin. So we're going to go ahead and cross out the date and just put on today's date. And that way there'll be no confusion as to when this was made. And again, it's going to need to sit in the refrigerator for about another 6 days to give it a full week. So by having the date on there, there'll be no confusion as to when it's ready to be used. The longer it has a time to break down and sit, the riper it's going to be and the better it'll work. But at least 1 week is the minimum. So we'll just put on our lid and take that back over the refrigerator and let that sit. So there you have it. Those are all the steps to create the base of the albumin process. Once that sits and has a time to ripen, we'll be able to then take a acid-free cotton paper and start to coat it with the base. It's going to take 2 coats, so we'll do a single coat, allow it to dry, and then we need to kind of harden or fix it. And it can be done in 2 ways. We can either do it with the use of a dry mounting press or with alcohol and salt. And then once that's been dried, then we can do a second coat and allow that to dry, and then sensitize it with silver, and then actually start doing our exposure. So we've got what we need to start the process and give us that really nice, beautiful, shiny glossiness that the albumin prints have, and the sharpness that the albumin prints have. And so this is the part that really takes a lot of the time to make it, and patience to wait for it to kind of ripen. But once we have that, then we're going to be set for months in albumin to be able to coat several sheets of paper. And I usually will do batches of paper, so I might do 6 to 10 sheets at a time, and then use those throughout the weeks as they go along. And then once those pieces of paper have been used up, then go ahead and coat some more. So we've got what we need to get started, and so we just have to be patient, and in a few days we'll start coating paper,